What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Wednesday. It's February the 9th. Time is flying. Next week, what, Valentine's Day for those that celebrate and do all the Valentine's cute stuff. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. I've got my co host with me today. I got my guys. Um, we are in the building. Got to talk about the sponsors. First and foremost, if you watch it, subscribe to it. That way you can get all the content every time we come on. The sponsors: Daily Arts of Survival Magazine, number one martial arts magazine. Soft Illusions Art Gallery. That's Malika in the back and her and her mother. Especially with Black History Month. You want to support Black business. There's one back there. We also have Ingram Taxes. It's tax season. Got to do your taxes. Reggie Wells Quality Speakers. Melba Wilson, and Leon Ellis Chocolat. Everybody, I am Bill Forster. That is Ty Butler, and that's Kevin Branzetti. And we are Real Talk Chronicles tonight. We're going to chop it up with you. Bill Forster. Let me ask my fellas how they doing tonight. We're going to have a nice, good show. Always thought provocative. And we hope you get something out of it. First and foremost, Kev, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Good evening. Good evening.
What's up, Ty? How you feeling, brother?
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Good. You know, fellas, let's first and foremost, another officer lost his life.
Bill, not to cut you off, but somebody's got background noise.
Oh, that's Kev. Yeah. We got the officers lost their one officer. First, there was an officer shot in Philadelphia today. Let me get it together. There was an officer shot in Philadelphia today. I think it was something like a car stop. Hello, everybody chiming in. I see you chiming in. I'm gonna say hi to you. I think it was something like a car stop. Two officers. One officer's a guy shot. The other officer rushed him to the hospital. Right now, he's in critical condition. Another officer, self-inflicted. He shot himself in the precinct the other day. Of course, he succumbed to the bullet in the head. It's the fourth one in a year already this year. We have another officer that went to purchase a car. $24,000. I guess maybe he felt because he was an officer that he was going to be able to take care of the situation. I don't know. And he gets shot in the face, I think, and he died. So, you know, of course, the gist of this conversation tonight is first, of course, suicide. We're going to ask the panel what they feel about suicide. Was the job ever stressful? Not to me, but you don't know what other people go through. And then we're going to try to talk about some relationship. How can we still build relationships? And we're going to come and give it to you straight, no chaser. So, Ty, I'll start with you. What do you think about the suicides? What do you think about the officer trying to purchase the vehicle and then succumb to that? 4 suicides this year, self-inflicted. And get your thoughts, and then we'll go to Kevin and see what's his thoughts about it.
Well, for one, you know, with the territory that and the environment we work in, there's a lot of ego involved. So a lot of individuals feel like they, you know, it's a belittling thing to reach out and get help, or sometimes to talk about whatever it is that's stressing them out. For me personally, I used to just try to rechannel the stress, you know, whether it was, most of the time it was going around individuals who weren't from the, you know, that network that I had, because when you get around them, you're not talking about anything from work. So I leave work where it's at, and then when I'm gone, I sign out. That's that. I just wish that more individuals would reach out and try to get professional help, and the reason I know a lot of them didn't during the times, we were on the job was because we didn't know if there was any sort of confidentiality where they wouldn't, it wouldn't get back, and then someone would try and take your gun and take you off the street. And that was the fear that a lot of officers used to deal with. And I know they took that away when they suggested individuals go get help, and they gave them a platform. In regards to the officer going to purchase the car, I'm sorry, he was misled. I know this younger generation lives a lot on social media, but East New York is a very dangerous area for anything if you're not from there and you're going to deal with individuals who you don't know. And it's unfortunate and it's sad, what transpired. The guy, him and his brother-in-law basically thought they were going on a real deal to purchase the Honda Odyssey, and they were misled, and it's very unfortunate, and I hope that they give the individual that shot him and anyone else that was involved true justice.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Kev, what's your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I'm sitting here, what I'm looking, right? Looking for the stats on suicide for the last couple of decades, and it's a little bit hard to find. It's all over the place. Our last few years have actually been better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was 3 years ago that the numbers were very high, but in 2020 it was 4, in 2021 3, and then 4 in 2022. But before that, we were up in the double digits. So there's definitely an improvement. There were years when we were on the job where it was also double digits. So it's not. It seems to fluctuate over the years. We pay attention to it for a period of time, and then it gets better, and we ignore it. It gets worse again, it seems.
Right.
But I've always, I actually strangely had this conversation with somebody today. I've always had this theory of part of the problem is we have a gun accessible to us. It's on your hip 24/7. So when you have that moment of desperation, it's right there. And it's easy, as opposed to the average, other people who have to plot, plan, and you have time to take it a notch backwards or to, interact with somebody, have that moment. But with cops, the numbers are high, but I got to go with my thing. I think it is. The weapon is right there. It is always on our hip.
Okay.
So,
I'll ask both of you. I mean, first, let me just give my theory, and I can't even speculate really why somebody would take their life. But this job comes with a lot of pressure. I don't know if any of these officers were in trouble, in fear of losing their job. We used to hear that a lot, of like officer afraid he's going to lose a job, he'll take his life. You know what I mean? Like, because this was the end all, the be all for some people. Sometimes this job gives you a different kind of ego that you can't live up to. None of us could, maybe, if you tried. Some people put the superhero cape on when they leave their houses, and honestly feel that they're trying to do the right thing, and then maybe end up doing something wrong. I'm just, everybody that's listening, I'm just giving avenues. I'm giving doors. I don't know. I'm just, it's tragic for anybody to take their life, but when you start thinking about how officers can succumb to, and like you said, the pressure. Some live and eat this job. This is all they are. You see, we have friends still to this day everything is blue. This, blue, that, blue. Okay, wow. Like, what would you put up before, if you worked at Carvel? Would you put up Mr. Softy? Like, I can't believe, like, just to, you know what I'm saying, to be such a part of a unit, you have forgotten. I mean, I get it, how people are still like boosters at colleges. I know we still rep. Like, okay, if NYPD plays against FD, we're gonna rep, NYPD. But just to still be so enamored with a fraternity, because that's what I call what we do, a fraternity. We're all blue like that. I don't understand what would cause a person to take their own life. Loving God said, the people who pray together stay together and seek advice for authentic God honoring persons. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do, but the job has never been a place of church. We have chaplains and we have preachers and of every ethnicity that's on this job. There's representation, but it's not like, okay, let's say a prayer before we go. I mean, and you may have some people that have a ring with a cross on it, or maybe have a religious emblem or whatever their faith is and stuff like that. But it's not like, we're sitting here holding hands and we're going to pray together and then we're going to go hit the streets and be like, yo, we say stuff like, may God be with you and Godspeed, and things like that, but nothing to the point of, let's all say a prayer, because you got different religions and not everybody is of Catholic or say they might have an atheist there, and if he leaves, now he's exposed. He doesn't, you don't know what people's feelings are. Kevin, Ty, your thoughts?
Bottom line is, I've always said this, even when I do lectures to new recruits, you have to have, and a lot of times, and don't have too many life experiences. They don't have too much personal. They weren't involved in some activity growing up.
You come in and choppy, Ty.
Yeah, losing you, Ty.
Yeah. Okay, we can hear you. I think we hear you now. Yeah.
So, like I was saying, is that, and I've always said this, that individuals have to have a personality of their own. And a lot of times, individuals don't have that personality. So what happens is they come into the job and they adapt the personality of being a cop, and that's it. Mm-hmm. They don't have the outlet of another network outside of their family or the job. And if they didn't have a personality or a network to help balance them, because balance is the key to life, then when something goes wrong with the job or the family, they're lost. And, mm-hmm. and where the breakdown comes in at.
Yeah, absolutely. Kev? That's a great point, Todd. That is definitely a great point. Yeah.
It's difficult, right? You're in a job where you're supposed to be strong, tough, brave, and then to admit you're vulnerable and hurting, it completely goes against what we're there, how we act with each other. So to become vulnerable and admit to, I'm having trouble, I need help, is horrible. And something I've definitely learned over the years, those who help people are absolutely the worst at getting help. I have a hard time asking for favors from people. Mm-hmm. I will do anything for anybody, but for me to ask somebody for help, it bothers me. And I think it goes to that level too. People who are in the business of helping are not good at receiving or asking. It's a tough business. All right, but I can't remember anybody I worked with who went out and they were taking a mental health break. Right? They gave in their guns, they took a mental health break, and they weren't going on the street.
That would have been taboo.
Right? I mean, Ty, did you ever? I know people who had to give in their guns because of going home and domestic things, so you left them at the precinct.
I knew about the domestic. I knew about people who voluntarily, because they were going through something and not necessarily wanting to take their life, but maybe another individual's life because of something they did to them or a family member. They voluntarily locked their guns in the locker before they went home. So yes, you have people that have taken steps, but like you said, it would have been taboo to reach out and ask for help in a mental situation, you know.
So it puts us in that scenario. You're there, you're feeling it, you're hurting, but there really is no. I've never, and I'd like to know if younger officers in the last decade have seen it differently. I've never seen it done successfully, where a cop said, "I need a timeout. I'm going through a divorce. I'm going through this. Somebody's got to give me a hand," and get a hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I think we all agree that I see everybody's marks. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host with my co-hosts Ty Butler and Kevin Branzetti. Please, if you haven't subscribed to it, please do. We all agree that it's taboo. I mean, weakness is not. Weakness is frowned upon on this job, and it's a shame that that has to be considered that kind of terminology. But people have family issues. I mean, the one thing I used to always say, this family was so supportive of family. Like I lost both of my parents working for NYPD, and they were so supportive, and it's anything you need and stuff like that. But then after that, if you lost your family on the job, they would send. At this time in the 90s, they would send something, and then they would, like, if you want to have a grieving process, they would reach out to you and ask you, did you want to come in and talk to people and stuff like that. And I just was like, whoa, that was so cool, in the sense that, they are so supportive of have a family orientation, very a commitment to family. But like you said, Ty, both of you guys said, and Kev, if somebody was to say, "Oh, yo, like I'm stressing out, I'm walking the edge," they sending you to psych services. That goes in your record. No one wants that. That would and listen, we all three of us come from a point in our careers where we needed points and phone calls to get places. You know what I'm saying? Like nowadays, it's all about, okay, after a certain amount of time, they just it's free for all. Anybody can apply for units. Like all of us, to go to narcotics, you needed career points. They don't do stuff like that anymore. I don't even think they even know what career points is. But to speak and say, like, psych, wow. And then, unless you're going to stay in that career, but some people, walk on water. Their career could get messed up, but if they got a phone call, next thing you know, you're like, where's so and so? Either he got promoted or he got transferred. He got transferred what? And then now all of a sudden that person is just fine and dandy, But like domestic situations were big. How many people we've seen have to leave their guns at the precinct, like Ty mentioned, because yeah, exactly, like you said, Kevin, you've experienced that. It's a crazy situation. Let me just read some comments real quick and see what happens. Go ahead.
So the protocol, I'm not sure, but not only with Papa, but with this, I think the job offered not psych services, but avenue where you can go and get help, and they won't penalize you for it.
Right, right.
Because also you got to think about, and I know we didn't touch on this in the last, I would say 10 years, more so, maybe 10 to 15 years. Remember, there's been an influx of a lot of different ethnicities on this job. So certain individuals come from a culture where if they disgrace their family or they or they feel disgraced in any sort of way, or where within the culture, they, it's like, they feel like they need to take their life, and that's not something that any of them were brought up in that environment. But depending on where they come from and what's instilled in their in their family values, that's something that can come up.
Yeah, I mean, before I read some comments, I, I don't know about any other profession that I'm hearing such a. I mean, Kevin, you might have the stats. You can find stats on things. The situations where people, uh, other professions are killing themselves. Like you don't hear that from FD. I don't hear. I haven't heard it. I don't hear about doctors, nurses, stressing out and then they got to kill themselves, or certain things are stressing them out. It's really something like that has me kind of baffled. Eddie Vieira says, I believe it's a basic instinct for human survival, to humans to survive and run from a threat to their mortality. So to me, a person who takes their life cannot be mentally well, period. Your thoughts on that, Kev?
I was looking up suicide rates by profession,
Uh-huh.
and I'll get to that in a moment.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question because I was looking up, dude.
He basically made a statement, and I guess it might be a question. He says, I believe a basic instinct for humans to survive and run from a threat to their mortality. So to me, a person who takes their life cannot be mentally well, period.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would think anybody who took their life is not mentally well, right? Whether it's whatever the stress is, whatever the factors, of course you're not mentally well. But the question becomes, how do we help that, diagnose that, work with them, and don't ostracize them?
Right.
They're accepted.
But first thing is they got to let people know that, and like we started the conversation off, people don't want to feel that sense of vulnerability. Think about those of us that had their dad in their life at any point in time, when you were young, you were basically, I wouldn't say beaten, but you were more so disciplined if you cried. You're a boy, you're not supposed to cry, right? That's something that was instilled in you from when you're young. But in all actuality, that's not something you need to teach a young man. You need to teach him to be in touch with his feelings and emotions, but don't cry for every little thing. But if there's something that hits you hard enough, you got to let it out. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's what you have in a lot of the male population. They don't want to be in touch with their emotions like that, and when they do, they feel a sense of vulnerability that's very uncomfortable. Most of us in human society have to learn to be uncomfortable to be comfortable in the world, and a lot of us don't. The majority don't.
And you're so right about that, because like you said, I was one of those individuals that was brought up where my father would beat me and be like, don't cry. And I remember the last time I cried at one point, I think it was in 79 or something, when my grandmother passed away. And then I didn't cry again until my father passed away in 96. So, then after that, I cried like a baby. But to be taught to not be sensitive to things can still affect your relationship to this day. Malika could tell me about something and I'll be like, she'd be like, well, like, you don't care? So I'm like, I'm kind of, I'm structured bad. I mean, I need to talk about that and understand that, but you still have to think that. Shout out to Stan Dennis. He said, what's up, Ty? Cheryl White, I see you, Cheryl. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. Yeah, Mark, we're going in a little deep tonight. We're talking about suicides and law enforcement. We're talking, officer just took his life, for those that don't know, in New York. It was the fourth one, I think, this year, and it's only February. Also, a police officer was shot in Philadelphia during a car stop. He's in critical condition. We also talked about the other officer that went to purchase something, and Ty talked about that very well. He said that that social media now you can buy things on social media, Facebook, where he believed it, but you're going to you go with you. I mean, I guess he figured he was a cop and then a police officer, and then he goes with his brother. Like, okay, I'm good. Like I got somebody that got my back, and I still got my gun. And the guy comes up and still shoots him in his face. So that like they were going for that money. I see you, niece. What's up, Dana? Shout out to everybody chiming in. Jose Cabrera. So I don't know. I mean, years ago, you get somebody's name when you're trying to purchase something. I'm just using this as an example, and you could have ran his name to see if he came up with some his pass, if he had to check it pass and be like, okay, wait a minute, I'm buying a car from Joe Blow, and Joe Blow has 4 priors, 3 for armed robbery, and 1 for attempted murder. I don't think I'm buying a car from Joe Blow. But right now, the job you're shunned upon if you even just do a check on somebody for personal reasons. We understand that.
I don't even think all that information. Remember, on social media,
we lost you, Ty.
I said, media, you could be anybody. Might not even give all the information.
Yeah, very much so. True. I mean, you can come up with fake, bogus profiles. Kev, you was gonna give us some stats on what's up, James? You was gonna give us some stats on.
I'm trying to read through it. Like there's plenty of jobs that have a higher rate than police officers. There are a lot of them. Yeah.
Like what? Please, if you give us an example.
I could believe.
A lot of it has to do with like heavy labor kind of thing. So miners, oil rig workers.
All right, got you.
Even farmers. It's people who really like have heavy labor jobs seem to have a very high rate. But I'm just trying to get through the CDC's page, and it's kind of hard to read, and I don't think I can do it while talking tonight.
Yeah, I totally get it, bro. I mean, like you never know. Who's this? Let's see. Chuck says you signed in. Chuck, I don't see you. Chuck, you might have to go back out and try to come back. Oh, Rich. Oh, that's right. Rich. I got a baby, Rich. I got an email, Rich. He's a special kind of guy. I got an email.
I'm just happy you don't have to send it to him in a letter, typed up.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let me just say this. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin and Ty. We are talking about suicide and law enforcement. We're talking about how tough this job can be. Stefania put something in this group in the chat. She said, Kevin, you can speak to it because you proved the theory wrong. Well, maybe not in regards to this. She said that the individual, one of the police officers, sent pictures of Mr. Nichols to his ex and I think other people. But Kevin, I think you can shoot that down if you want, or you could talk about it.
Yeah, it looks like so. There's definitely a report that he shot it to 2 other people, but not an ex, not that. That's a speculation at this point, from what I could see. That's not a fact. It could turn out to be, but he took pictures. It sounds like, and sent pictures to 2 people.
If he did that, that's
he sent it to two officers on that job, a civilian in the department, and an acquaintance. They're not listing the acquaintance yet. So that's a speculation on who. Look, in our lifetime, will you ever see cops taking photos of crime scene things and sharing with each other? Yes.
Yeah.
When you're part of the crime scene taking it, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
That's a little outrageous to me.
You know what's so funny? Yeah, when you're part of the crime scene, I mean, we've taken. Excuse us, everybody. We're being transparent. NYPD was very childish and silly. They would take pictures of like dead bodies and stuff, and like if they like swelled up or something, then they'll send them to somebody else and be like, "Oh, look at this," and stuff like that. I was like, I never understood that. It seemed like it became a tradition until I never did it. But
I was
now, if
I was on a crime scene, and the pictures started going around while I was still on the crime scene. I couldn't believe of 3 dead bodies. I was like, this is crazy. Unreal.
That's crazy.
But I don't think it's just NYPD. It's nationwide. Because
I'm sure it's a police like culture. It's a police culture. You know,
because they did it. Unfortunately, they were disrespectful enough. They did it to Kobe, and then they perished with him in the helicopter. Out in California. So
yeah,
and many other places too. They've done it. So
wow. Yeah,
the thing was in our day it was Polaroids.
Yeah.
I got lucky with that, right? So it was Polaroids. Look, I remember in the academy they pulled out, like in one of the classes, they pulled out books of Polaroid photos of dead bodies, like to just get you used to seeing them. And did I know cops who had a collection in their locker room of extra Polaroids? Yeah. And like you show it to each other. Look, is it appropriate? No. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. Was it done more as part of dehumanizing things in life? Yeah. Like, you stop looking at it as human beings and like, wow, look at this crazy thing I had to see today. And you're also sharing a little bit of your pain in a strange kind of way.
You think
look
so?
what I had to work. Look, well, here, I'm showing you photos of what I had to work on today, Bill. I'm showing you photos of the body I had to go sit with and the parent I then had, somebody's parent or loved one I had to go talk to afterwards about that dead body.
Now, I'm going to say this, Kevin. Maybe that might have. I'm just saying that might have been you. I've never heard an officer use that analogy. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I've never heard it. I've seen it done more in jest and oh shit, look at this. You know what I'm saying? Look how this person swelled up. Like this is a piece of work here. But
we weren't. But I'm just going with like, so it became for us initially. We were brought into this society, the police department, and we were shown a lot of these things. We were shown different things. They wanted to break into it, and they never gave us a methodology for dealing with this stuff. So that's all we knew, right? So that's what. Look, I didn't have a collection. Did I ever look at somebody else's collection? Yeah, I've seen other people's collection. Never had one. That to me was not something I wanted to keep.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, I'm not like I said. I'm just saying it was a warped thing. It's just like officers, I mean, like everybody, like I said, I'm being transparent. You got officers, you sit around and they'll start passing gas and you be like, yo, dude, really? And they think that shit is funny. Like, I mean, Keystone Cops, sometimes, yes. What's up, Chuck? How are you, brother? How you feeling tonight?
What's up,
man?
brother, man? Sorry for the late entry, brother. How's everyone today, man?
It's all right. I think Rich is trying to come in and Alonzo's trying to come in. The one thing is, we just to bring you up to speed on what we were talking about. We were just talking about self-inflicted. The officer in the 4-7 shot herself. I think that's the 4th one this year already. And we also talked about the other officer that went to purchase a vehicle, and he went to purchase it from Facebook, and he got ambushed and shot in the face, and he succumbed to the bullet wounds. Also today on the news, a police officer got shot doing a car stop, him and his partner, but he got shot. So we were just talking about, first and foremost, for you and Alonzo, and we're going to get your opinion. Just what's your take on stress dealing with this job and stressful situations? Because Ty, Kevin, and myself, we all came up. We had some good theories to it. Some can be this is the end all or be all for some people. Some people We don't know if they were in trouble. They can't deal with it. Some people would put on the Superman cape and may have got in trouble doing something and they're afraid of losing their job. So, Chuck, I just want to get your theory, and then I want Alonzo to give his theory, and then I'll read the comments for everybody else.
Well, I mean, first, man, in regards to the job itself, it all depends on like the overall issue, let's say in terms of just suicide alone. Like some people would generally say if someone commits suicide that for whatever reason that person was a coward, And I think it's the generalization that we think that someone who commits suicide or someone who takes their life is weak. It's not that that person is weak. That person is obviously going through something which is so egregious and so painful for them personally that they feel as if like they're in quicksand, and for whatever the reason they can't find an out, and they feel as if they're being smothered, and the only way to stop this pain that they may be experiencing is to take their life. I mean, I'm going to say very clearly, have I ever had thoughts? I remember one time in particular, and it had nothing directly. I think it had something to do with the job, but it was a combination of things. Whereas at one point when I first came on the job, and I'm going to be very transparent with all you brothers, since we're talking about that. When I first came on the job, there was an issue where I had an off-duty incident. And the end result of that off-duty incident was that they had alleged that I had been doing cab robberies in the Bronx, right? That I was sticking up cab drivers, because at the time in the 80s, there was a lot of like homicides that were happening with cab drivers, and they were being robbed at gunpoint. And there was an off-duty incident that had involved a cab driver. Somewhere, somehow, they thought that I might have been or had something to do that implicated me in it, because I had an off-duty incident with a cab driver who alleged that he had been robbed at gunpoint by 3 black males. They put my face in a photo array, and from that photo array, they showed it to various people, not only in the Bronx, but also in connection with homicides that were committed in Brooklyn. And supposedly out of 7 people, they picked me out of the 5 and said that I was a part of a crew that was running around doing stick-ups in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn refused to prosecute me, but the Bronx, this guy named, there's a suspect named Bruce Major, he says that they decided that they were going to try to close 61s on me. So now, needless to say, now I'm being indicted in the Bronx on several counts of robbery, as well as like a manslaughter charge. So the job was, I was new on the job. Thank God I had just cleared probation, because if I hadn't cleared probation, I'd have probably been fired. But the bottom line is the stress and the pressure associated with that. And then the dynamic of not, at the time, I think I had just gotten married. My wife at the time decided that because of this issue, that she couldn't stand with me on it. And I was dealing with the overall aspect all by myself. My family, they were all like up in arms. I had just become a police officer. Now next year I'm being suspended because I'm being alleged that I'm doing cab robberies, right? Mm-hmm. And the overall stress associated with that, the possibility of being locked up, given different, we're going to give you 1 to 3 and this, that, and the other, right? And then I don't have the support of supposedly the woman that I married, right? So I'm dealing with all this by myself. That pervasive cycle, and even though I didn't have a gun to my availability, that amount of stress, just the mere fact of knowing that, or the possibility of someone saying that you did robberies in another borough and we're going to lock you up for 3 to 5 years, that can put an immense amount of stress on any human being. And I think at that particular point, maybe, I don't know, would I have been that vulnerable? Would I have been that weak that possibly, if I had a firearm to my availability, would I have been weak enough or been in so much pain that I decided to take my life? I don't know. I didn't have that there. I just had to deal and cope with the circumstances on my own. And of course, the exacerbating fact of it was that the people or members of the department who I worked with in that precinct, they, I'm not saying they were haters, but I didn't hang out with them, right? I didn't go to bars and hang out with some of these cats and drink all freaking night at home. That wasn't my thing. I wasn't into that. So now, of course, they form their own opinions. Oh, I told you that cat was a perp. I knew he was up to no good. That guy didn't want to hang out with us. He wasn't doing this with us. He didn't go to our barbecues. I was my own man, my own island. I didn't like the way those guys rolled. I didn't like the way they were flowing. I just decided I didn't want to be associated with them other than when I was at work. So of course they generalized me as being I'm a black man. I'm being alleged and I'm doing robberies. So all of that pressure, all of that, I say this to say is that when a person decides that they may take their life, you don't know exactly what they're going through. And this job, unfortunately, because you're a police officer, you're supposed to be a rock of Gibraltar, right? You're supposed to be that individual that's supposed to be able to take all and be all. But we're human beings, man. We all go through emotional issues, and you never know what goes on in someone's personal life, man, that makes them decide that they may want to commit suicide, you know? So, I mean, that's a little long-winded, but I'm sorry. That's just trying to, put
Well,
things
you,
in
you was late, so
perspective.
you needed to catch up, so that's good. But I mean, I mean, thank you for the transparency, and I think you did share that with me. I don't know if on a personal level or you shared it in the group before, so I appreciate you sharing that story. What's up, Lons? What's up, brother? What's your thoughts, man?
Hey, first of all, good evening, gentlemen, and everybody who may be listening.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I can answer this. Coming in on the back end, so hopefully I'll answer this correctly. But for me, my personal experience has always been, um, just kind of looking at other people on the job and then comparing them to myself. I think I've been fortunate because of the type of personality I am. I don't get too high, I don't get too low. And so even though like you guys, I've seen, the best of the best and the worst of the worst, um, my issue has never been, um, I've never had an issue with like depression and that type of stuff. So I think in some regards, I've been kind of insulated from some of those extreme lows that, some of us have. Um, my bigger issue has been, I was in charge from like my fourth year throughout my career. So I was always in charge of someone. So I always had those types of pressures, being in charge of a squad, a shift, a unit, a section, a division. Um, and so, with each one of those, you get more and more responsibility. And, your responsibility becomes wider too. Um, I've been involved in situations where officers have been shot, where people have died, and things like that. And I think my faith has really helped me, get through that. And like Chuck, I was in a new place with no family, no friends, except for the friends I started to make, after I got here. So fortunately for me, I've never ran into a situation that got me so low where I had suicidal thoughts or anything like that. However, the stress can be tremendous on the job, and I think added to that stress is as an industry or as a profession, we tend to get a lot of A type personalities, you know, and those persons, in addition to them being real authoritative at times and being real centered, I won't say self-centered, but being real centered at times where they're like the focal point. The backside of that is a lot of those persons are prone to extreme highs and lows, and so I've seen where we've had a couple of officers in my agency, that hurt themselves. And some of those people were, those A-type personalities. Some of them, a couple of them were in situations like Chuck described, where, they were on the wrong side of the law. And, and the pressure, I believe, became too big. And, they that route. Um, but for me, again, I think I'm just fortunate in that my personality and my outlook on life is a lot more uh I don't know, I guess a lot more I have more of a baseline personality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have too many extreme highs and lows, and I think that's helped me. And then plus I've always tried to be prepared. Like although I made a lot of arrests, I made a lot of cases, I was in internal affairs for a long time, homicide and all of that. I've never put myself in situations where I was at a disadvantage. whether when I was out on the street, always made sure I was prepared mentally, physically. I always knew what I can and cannot do. So I always knew the rules, always knew the law. So like those types of things always kept me out of situations where I had to like look over my shoulder, you know. I mean, I've had to take guns from people. I've had people point weapons at me. You know, I've had, you know, guys get shot while we were working together. But I know for me, I was always tactically ready. I was always emotionally ready, physically ready, you know, and administratively ready. So I never really experienced those situations where people really came at me. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
that kind of spared me. And like Chuck, I don't know if I was in the same predicament. Let's say if Chuck was in, I'm not sure how I would have responded. I would like to think that I would respond in a rational way, in a self uh, preserving way. But who's to say? You know, I'm just thankful that I've never had to experience something like that, and I've never had to experience those bouts like deep doubt or deep depression. So that's about the best way I can answer it
Oh
at
no,
this.
I think it's excellent, and you know what's so funny? I mean, like I said, Chuck being a young man at that time, you never know. I mean, to some people, I mean, there's this 7 of us here, right? There might be one thing that cause a person to freak out, and you'd be like, "Really? That got you like stressed out?" And the other things might not affect anybody, and then it might be something different from each person because everybody's different. So you know, Chuck, a new man coming on the job, just getting his job, figuring like, "Yo, this is my career," da 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 da, and now all of a sudden they're trying to give him time. You know what I'm saying? Some people might figure like, "Yo, listen, I ain't going to jail." You know what I'm trying to say? You know, that we hear the stories. So the bottom line is you're just looking at you come on his job and you did all this thing, especially I can contest to this. You try all your life to be squeaky clean, and then still people try to bring up your past. You know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, then you want to label me a perp in a array or show up and then you talking about wait, and I'm telling you I didn't do it, but I may favor this person, and now I'm sitting here got to prove myself. And the worst thing you got to go down this road of getting a lawyer and stuff like that. That can be very stressful and tactful. I mean, and just an emotional. Rich, I'm gonna come to you, but let me just read some comments. Mark said, "Hey, while you all were in the academy, did they show a video of someone committing suicide? They showed us a press conference of a congressman from Pennsylvania who shot himself. I remember at the time, no matter what's happened, I couldn't do that." Stan also says, he says, "I'm the son of a police officer of countless friends and loved ones that are on the job. I have respect and caution of police in general. To all those that have to deal with the worst parts of humanity, I will always pray for your safety and judgment." Absolutely appreciate this, Dan. What's up, Ali? Hey, Cheryl. Rich, what's your thoughts, man, about suicide and stuff like that? And please let me read Loving God. Loving God said, "I'm so elated to see everyone here again. Thank you." Nicole said, "Thank you for sharing your story. God gave you the strength to put through the difficult period." I'm assuming she's talking about Chuck. Hey, Sharon, how are you? Also, Norm, I know you watching. Norm is one individual. He played college ball with Lonzo and I, and he was on the job in North Carolina, and he tried to commit suicide. I so blindly didn't think we were going to stay so much on this topic. I'm glad we did. I wanted to also talk about relationships in the community with police officers. And but Norm, if you want to chime in at any time, just text me. I'll send you the link because your story is definitely breathtaking, and people should need to hear that. Loving God said, "This is why you need friends who aren't afraid to pray together and let it be known Jesus is their rock." Absolutely. Vivian says, "We are human beings, no matter your position in life. Everyone is capable of dealing with the pressures of life." Absolutely. Okay, I read that with Nicole. Let's see. I think Loving God also said, Loving God said, "Alonzo, real good guy." Eddie Vieira says, few know what I was going through: divorce, dispute with family, sons not talking to me, financial hardship, and my mother diagnosed with cancer, all at the same time. But I kept myself together. God is good. Yeah, like I said, we never know what causes us to say I can't take it anymore. Uh, a loving God said, on a job, your performance is reviewed. When you die, God reviews your whole existence. So how can you ignore God during your lifespan and think you're a good person? I don't have the answer to that. Uh, some may have the answer. I don't. I know what my faith is, and I know what gets me up in the morning. I never forget I had a conversation with a person that's, I guess, damn near considers himself an atheist. And it was almost like he was mad at me for believing in God. And I'm like, yo, I said, dude, if this what gets me up in the morning and I want to say my prayers at night, why are you hating on my game? You know what I'm saying? Like, let me do what I do. Like, don't like it's like type of, but don't get mad at me because I'm left-handed or ambidextrous. Like leave me the F alone. I'll bring my man Rich in. Rich, what's your thoughts on suicide? And I mean, we're talking about 4 officers in this month have taken their lives. I mean, this year has taken their lives. And you know, the stress of the job. I mean, this is a different job, Kevin. Stats went into the bag, and he found out that this is not the job that has the highest rate of suicide. The other jobs out there, but this is probably the one job that stands out for a lot of people in the world, in the community. Rich, what's your thoughts?
Is that postal workers? Is that why they call it going postal? When it comes to suicide, I don't know which job it is, but my experience with this topic comes from when I was working in foster care. I was a group home supervisor for hard to place children. And when I took on that job, I took it on with the understanding with the people that hired me that I had to get rid of everybody else that was working there, and I hired my own people. And they said, sure, go ahead. So what I did is I hired a lot of people that had been formerly incarcerated, because I was dealing with a lot of kids that had open cases and stuff like that. And it was guys that I knew coming up that had did like 10 years and like 15 years. One of the guys even did like 20 years. But they came out trying to change their lives and make a difference in the community. So I gave them a shot. And one of the guys in particular, I'm not going to call any names, but when I was a kid, I looked up to this guy, in the neighborhood. He was that dude. Long story short, he went to prison, came home, and his sister called me and was like, yo, he needs a job. So I plugged him in, trained him. And this was actually the first job this brother ever had in his life. I mean, real job. And he excelled in it. By the time he was done, he had became a supervisor on my level, right? And at this time, I had left the job. I was done with it. I saw him one day, and he seemed to be okay. 2 days later, I got a call saying that he had shot himself in the head while he was working in the group home van. I found it hard to believe that this brother, who didn't seem to have a care in the world, and he was the kind of guy that would shoot you before he would shoot himself.
Mm-hmm.
That was my perception of him. But I didn't believe he did it until I saw the note he left. Mm-hmm. And in the note he left, it said a lot of things in it relating to the job and how the job was getting to him, because he had worked his ass off to get to a certain level in this job, but the job didn't love him, and he was about to lose it.
Wow.
And there was other things going on in his life, but that part of it stood out to me because I knew how important that job was to him, that he went his entire life and it got to this point where he was now not looked at in a negative way, that he was positive, and he was somebody now his mother could be proud of. and he was about to lose the only thing he ever had. And he shot himself in the head and killed himself.
Wow.
Now, on another note in that topic, we had a psychiatrist that worked with the kids. And we had one kid that was aging out of our program. And his psychiatrist, let go of some information. Technically, he wasn't supposed to tell me and the other supervisor, but he was only telling us because this kid was getting ready to get discharged into the home of a woman he met while he was on the job, because he aged out of our program. He came in at 16 and stayed till he's 21. But he was a model kid. He didn't get in no trouble. He stayed to himself. He was like, this dude was like, he'd wake up, his father was former military. His father would wake him up in the morning. He would do push-ups, run miles, all of that. So he was in top shape. His bed had to have hospital corners on it in order to do anything. But he was in our care because his father used to molest him when he wasn't doing those things. And while he did that, he would lock him in a closet for days. While he was in that closet, his father died. His mother was already dead. But his father died, which is how we got him. They found him in the house with his father dead and him locked in the closet. I'm just giving you the backstory of this kid's background. So he was about to age out of the program. He stayed with us. He was like the best kid. You would have never knew he was a resident. You would have thought he was staff. That's how good he was. But he would see a psychiatrist about his issues. So when it came time for him to age out, the psychiatrist is saying to me and the other supervisor, I don't know what to do with this kid. I said, what are you talking about? He said he's about to move in this apartment with this young lady and she has 2 kids. I said, yeah, okay. He said, well, in our sessions, he divulged to me that he had these ideas of having sex with kids. And also he had displayed suicidal behavior. Now, this behavior that he deemed to be suicidal was the fact that he was sleeping with prostitutes and transgender people without using a condom. And this was during the time of AIDS at its height, right? So they described that as suicidal behavior. And I'm saying that part to say this, that a person can display suicidal behavior that's not actually killing themselves, but committing suicide professionally, personally, in a relationship. We have these thoughts sometimes that drive us to this, and the extreme is actually killing yourself. But these things happen and it leads up to that, It doesn't just start at, I want to kill myself. It's like being in a relationship with a woman where you're talking nice to her and then all of a sudden you're cursing her out. The next time you holding her and you pushing her, then you choking her, then you punching her. It's a slow walk to that point where you get there, right? So we got to do a better job as friends, family members, colleagues, co-workers, to look at the people around us and just simply talk to them. You'd be surprised what a conversation could do for a person that you don't even know. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've had conversations with people that I didn't know and talked about some shit, and they said, man, you don't know what that did for me. Because it's never the big thing that tips you over the edge. It's that straw. Some shit that you say, well, damn, he went over on that? No, it was a whole bunch of shit that was piled on before anybody thought to ask me, Because we all, especially as black men, they say, oh, we don't go see psychiatrists. I know you do, Kev, but, we don't go see psychiatrists.
I was waiting for it.
Oh, God.
Hey, we gotta put a little humor in there.
When we talked earlier tonight about cops making inappropriate jokes at the wrong time, this is exactly it. and I'm throwing the flag way over the line.
But no, really, you know, black folks are not. They don't tell us to go see a psychiatrist. You know, we don't go get that counseling and shit. You know, we like, yeah, nah, man, we not doing that. You know,
Yeah.
but the truth is, we need that. We need these sessions where we can talk and let our shit out to somebody that don't have no skin in the game, so to speak. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have nothing to do with what we telling them about, and we need to unload. And even those people got to go and unload that shit because you just told them, you just dropped a bomb on them, so they're not supposed to tell nobody. So they got to have the psychiatrist too that they give their shit to.
Yeah.
You know, because the thing about a secret, you know how you tell somebody a secret about what's going on with you and say, don't tell nobody. And this is that person that you know you can tell shit to. But if it was too much for you to hold, what makes you think they can hold it?
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I got a beautiful panel with me today. They're all co-hosts in their own right. I know, Kev, you'll be leaving in a few minutes. And I have Norm here. And Norm is a person that tried to commit suicide from a law enforcement standpoint. I definitely want him to tell his story. I appreciate you all dropping jewels. Chuck, a question from the audience. They wanted to know, what was the disposition of your case? How did it end?
Oh, they realized that they had to throw out all of the indictments because obviously they had the wrong person. The job, they dropped whatever the issue was criminally. The job wanted, they said, well, the job didn't want to admit that something did not happen. So they changed my charges and specs like 3 times to finally being a failure to take police action. And then the overall disposition based on the situation was nola and contendere, which is one of those particular I would say determinations that not very many people get. So the job was saying, well, we know something happened. We can't prove it. So we meet in the middle. You know, we just, okay, you keep your secret, we'll keep our secret. But nonetheless, they took me through a year of a fucking roller coaster ride, going back and forth with the court, telling me, well, we're going to offer you 1 to 3 or 1 to 7. And then all of a sudden it got watered down to them realizing that the gentleman who alleged that he was robbed by 3 black men, he perjured himself at some point. He lied. He finally came forth and they had to find him because he disappeared and they had to find him. And he says, no, what I alleged never happened. That didn't happen. So once again, you know, I went through a roller coaster ride for about a year and some change, but they ended up having to throw out all the indictments. And then I had to go in so far as getting that particular part of my life expunged because now I have fingerprints saying that I got locked up, right, for several robberies and a manslaughter charge. So that was another roller coaster ride, but it is what it is.
Wow.
So you beat the charge, is what you're telling me.
At the end of it, yeah. As opposed to, but the fact of the matter is, it was unnecessary. You know, it's just 3 black men, and they decided to take me through a roller coaster ride. And unfortunately, this one inspector says, "No, I know you've been doing cab robberies. I know it's you." And it is what it is at that point.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kev. You have something to say?
I just want to say, Chuck, I'm happy you're here today, man. I'm glad you were a strong enough human being to fight your way through that, because the world is a better place with you in it. So
thank you, brother.
We can all joke around all we want, but I couldn't imagine being put through that kind of arena, my friend. You're a strong man. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But on that note, fellas, I apologize. I have to cut off. I was at an hour tonight. And
I know. So we'll see you later, Kev. I'll talk to you later on, brother. Thank you, everybody. Kev's going to step out. So everybody, I want to bring my dude in. You've all seen him before on the show. I have history with all you guys. So Norm, of course, is a former officer. And matter of fact, I'm just going to let Norm tell his story. Norm, so, we're talking about suicide within law enforcement. We're talking about how the pressures of the job can't affect. Who knows what causes a person to feel a certain way. There might have been so many different things with you. I mean, you were the man, athlete. So I mean, you can only tell your story. But I just knew when I found out, I was just like so devastated. Lons and I was so devastated, like to hear that. And the point, and I told you, I said, "Yo, we are reconnected, and we'll never disappear from each other." And in that time, you've reached out and been like, "Yo, I'm having a bad day," and I'm like, "Okay, let's rap. Let's talk it out." So, saying all of that, please just take us down your road to what caused you to try to commit suicide from a either law enforcement standpoint or just a personal standpoint. And I want the brothers can chime in after that. Go ahead.
Good evening, fellas.
Yeah.
I started out, in undercover for the sheriff department down here. Then I moved up to being a ramrod on no-knock warrants, and you just take a lot of pressure from the job, personal life, and just that monkey on your back, that camel. You the camel, and you don't know how many straws you can take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one day I just got tired, and when somebody tell you they tired, you need to listen to them.
Yeah.
It's not a physical tired, it's a mental tired. And when your mental is leaving you, you don't notice it, but people around you notice it, but they're scared to say anything to you. And so I told you, Bill, Alonzo, I told you, I unfortunately I lost my left leg below the knee, and I was dealing with that pressures of life itself. And one day I just got tired. I just mentally broke. I went in there and took a shower, and I was laying on the bed, and I had a little 38 revolver, and I said, well, this is it. And it misfired. So, and what really got me upset about it was when I went downstairs on the back porch, it fired.
You mad at yourself? You mad at the gun now, huh?
Yeah, I'm mad at I'm like, wait a minute, Smith & Wesson owe me one, But as far as on the job, though, I found out that while I was on the job, I was trying to commit suicide on the job by running into, no knock warrants. You just kick it indoors. You don't know what's behind that door. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got shot. I shot a few people. It's not something that you're proud of, because when you take a life, you get them demons forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I think I told you, Bill, I don't sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sleep at night because you still see the faces. And when a person die, an unnatural death, that is etched on their face in death.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you see that and you're the cause of it, it eats at your soul. It eats at your soul. And you justify it by saying you were at work. That's your job. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And you try to say, okay, you go see the psychiatrist at work. They talking about some other bullshit. They're not even talking about what happened.
Yeah.
They want you to take some medication.
Yeah.
Numb
you down. They want to numb you down now all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why from what I see, the alcoholism and even drug use is high among law enforcement.
Oh, absolutely. We all know that. Absolutely. Hold that thought for a second, brother. Hold that thought for a minute. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host with my co-hosts, Norm Davis, Rich Williams, Lonzo Moreland, Chuck Richards, and Ty Butler. And shout out to one of our sponsors in the building, Jacob Ingram. That's Ingram Taxes. Jacob, put your number or whatever people can reach you, website, if they want their taxes done. And also, he's co-founder of the Daily Arts of Survival magazine. So that brother is doing his thing, him and his father. Those are my people. So I just had to definitely shout them out. And no, I'm gonna let you finish, but fellas, the question that I'm putting out there to you all, and I'll start with you, Ty, after I say what I'm saying, is that thinking about Chuck and what we all and Norm just hit on a point. A lot of times in this job, we're scrutinized to a higher level than our counterparts. That's just the way it is. And I think what I was doing in narcotics, and I always say a story isn't true unless somebody can co-sign it. So anybody that's worked with me in narcotics knows, like, I found my niche when it came to ghosting. And I did a lot of, and I thought about what you said, Norm, and Malika and I was talking about this earlier, and I was telling her, I said, when I thought about, we was talking about the police officer that got shot in Philly, and I was like, yo, I remember my mother telling me after I became a police officer that she didn't want me to be a police officer. And I was like, you telling me now after I went through the academy and all that? You never said anything. She said, well, you was kind of following your dream, and I didn't want to say anything about that to stifle that or deter it. So, but when I was in narcotics and I was doing the ghost stuff, like I would go in a building and try to apprehend 3 or 4 guys and do it sometime and fight and do all kind of stuff, chase people with guns. And then, it was like proving that I was good, but also a lot of, suicidal maniac kind of stuff. Like, yo, wait a minute, dude, like you really doing a little bit too much, which is kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you ain't got to go in the building and show that you got a knuckle game and fight 3 to 4 guys and then come back and then talk about, oh, how many hours I'm getting. I should take all these hours and I should punch everybody in the face if I don't get it. You know what I'm trying to say? But like, to think about it, this is what I did and this is who I was. I mean, yeah, kind of could have been walking on the edge for myself. Norm, I just want you to hold that thought. Ty, I mean, speak your truth if that was something that you ever tried to do, or you could talk about with Norman's story, anything that equates or whatever I want to bring you back in on this.
I think in dealing with that, as far as what you referred to, the actions we took while we were in law enforcement, mm-hmm. I think a lot of the kamikaze and risks that we took, especially in narcotics, and as Dawn mentioned, going through doors on warrants, no knock and knock. A lot of times you don't. It's more reactionary than thinking. You don't think. You just it's the reaction that you have, and it gets instilled in you over a period of time from the work you're doing. I didn't look at it like I was like in Norm's situation where I was maybe risking my life unnecessarily, but someone on the outside looking in made it that way. I know there was times I made apprehensions and I was reprimanded by supervisors because they were like, why you ain't wait for the field team? Like, because I saw the situation, didn't need a field team, and I just made it happen easily without fighting. Like, I didn't, I could say I had a few fights on the job, but very few of them because of the tactics maybe that I use, especially with ghosting or being incognito and walking up on someone and all of a sudden that you had the element of surprise and you're telling them you're under arrest, and you're just one person and the field team is coming up.
Yeah.
I've had those situations, but I didn't look at them as like I was suicide.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny. I think, I can just speak for myself. Sometimes you're in situations that, like I've always felt like this job, that we've all, live well off. We could see somebody of another ethnicity not do shit, and he's the golden child. And you'd be like, yo, wait a minute, like how? And then, you want to send me to the detail? Like, really? Like, or I get to get the hospitalized prisoner or something. So it was just like, listen, I'm going to show everybody that I'm that dude, right? And you're going to know I'm that dude. And like you said, the greatest thing is to be like, everybody always laughs. Anybody that knows me, they'll be like, yo, don't let Bill do your paperwork. He'll butcher your shit up. But tactically, I'm like, I'm second to none. You know what I'm saying? It's just like when you start talking about that goat and narcotics as a ghost, I'm mentioned. And it's a shame, what would that have got me if I'd have got hurt? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like, yo, he was a good one. But still, I think tactics on all accords, like, it's okay, there's 2 or 3, I might kind of get this. Oh, there's 4 or 5 in there. All right, let me set it up and the door is locked. Let me find a way to put something in the door so that people can come in and the field team can move in and be like, yo, good job, how you open the door. Sharon says, those of us that work at ACS had a hard time emotionally, especially if you have a fatality. Wow. I never even thought about that in regards to that. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to do your job, and then, like I said, a fatality comes in. Richard, I know that comes to something that what you did, but I want to bring in Alonzo back in, and then Chuck and all of you. We can open it up to Norm and everybody. Lance, you talked about, maybe in a certain way, because I've known you for damn near all my life too. You've always been an even-keeled individual. You and Lewis remind me of each other. Lou, or you guys just seem like you're just steady. But was there ever a time that you felt the pressures of the job where you felt you had to kind of do more than the average person? Not that it put the pressure to take your life, but just the pressures of the job. Let's talk about the pressures of the job in that aspect. And then I can come to you, Chuck, and then Rich, you can talk about any pressures of anything that's happened in your life. Go ahead.
Yeah, my experience was probably real similar to all of you guys. Being new on the job, I wanted to prove myself, and especially being a guy that everybody knew was from out of town.
Right.
Like my first year, people didn't even know my name. They used to call me New York. You know what I mean? And so I got out there, and I wanted to make good arrests, but I always had that other side. Coming from where we all come from, you see the bad arrests. You see people unnecessarily arrested and sometimes illegally arrested, right? So for me, the pressure was always, don't be that guy. Every arrest that I make, I can lay my life down and say, I made the right arrest and I did it the right way, or I got the right person. I may not have always gotten all the evidence, but I know I got the right person.
Hold on, Buck. Ty's about to step out. He has to go to another call. Ty, see you next week. But just say goodbye to everybody, man.
All right, gentlemen. Take care.
All the best, Tom, my man.
All right.
Peace.
Yeah. And trust me, everybody, I like to try to keep it within a certain time frame. But when I think a topic is as so serious as this, I don't mind a run on and stuff like that. So we'll stay on a good maybe another 10 to 15 minutes so we can chop it up, because I think people need to hear about this. The topic that the other topic I wanted to talk about, if this fades, then we'll pick that up. But otherwise than that, I think it's important for people out there that even are thinking about suicide to go out and reach out there and get some help. That's the moral of this story. I hope people take away from that. You have a testimony right here in front of you, Norm, that tried to kill himself and he didn't. So we never know what pressures can put on somebody's back. No one can tell another person what they can carry. You understand what I'm saying? No one. I look at a lot of children today. Hold on, I'm gonna mute you, Norm, because that titty tat nitty that shit gonna get on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who's supposed that shit. That shit gonna get on my nerves.
Oh God.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got to keep in mind. Yeah, but no one can tell somebody what they like when I speak, Ty and I speak to kids, and Chuck, you've done it with me before, and we talk to these kids. These kids are coddled to a certain degree right now where, take away the internet. I just saw a video not too long ago. A lady gave her daughter for her birthday. She was blessed enough to do it. She gave her daughter a Tesla and $1,600. And her daughter said, "Yo, why did you do this? I don't want a Tesla." Whatever car she wanted, I think the Tesla cost more than the car she wanted. But she was like, "I wanted this car." She said, "You could have kept this shit. I would have, let me tell you something. I'd have been going to jail right then because I'd have teed off and lit her ass up." Like Richie told me the other day. You said, you'll be a mean parent. Listen, if I give you a Tesla and $1,600, and then you sit there and tell, and she handed the money. I told Rich, I said, I got to find this. She handed the money to her brother and said, "Yo, you can give her that. You can give her that. Give her that. Give her back that." And she says, "I don't know why you destroyed my birthday. You give me a Tesla. Who wants this?" That's all that would have been. You know what I'm trying to say? Yo, Chuck, come on in and chime in, and Richie, come in too. Like, just what are we talking about? Like stress. Like I said, you can't tell anybody what stress you can carry, and people. I think our generation was supposedly built strong, but like I said, when you got, people would have family problems. Family problems can definitely put a lot of stress on people. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this family, like you said, Rich. You just told us some stories that were crazy about, molestation. Excuse me, couldn't get out tongue fat tonight. Or other things, child abuse and things of that magnitude, poverty, a lot of things, domestic violence. People just can't take anything. I see Enid in the building, and Enid is our domestic violence specialist. So we'll definitely have you coming in pretty soon, Enid, one day to come back and kick it with us and give some insight on a lot of things. But I'm sure this ties in. And just like Sharon was saying, she says children's services employees experience similar stress as police. Oh, it just jumped. Lord have mercy. Just when I was, she said, experience similar stress as police. We also experience bullying on the job. Many of our staff are expressing emotional distress. It appears that no one cares. Wow.
I am not happy. My own son lied to me and treated me like the hell just because he was.
Okay, I don't know who's listening to that, but that was right on time.
That was right on time too. That's sweet. That was a segue. Wow, yeah, that was great.
All of us was like this. Hey, Rich and Norm.
That was Norm. Have some Norm shit there.
Yeah, that was some Norm shit. The stress of expressing emotional distress. It appears that no one cares. One of y'all can talk about that. Rich, you worked with a lot of children, and Norm, like you said, you talked about feeling like the back was breaking. I'll let you guys pick that up. Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, but you know what? With our children and our era, so to speak, we have a tendency to have expectations for the people behind us to have the same values and wants and concerns that we have, and that's simply not true. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I'm good with stories. I heard this guy tell this story once about how there was a man and a woman. They were married, and the woman was madly in love with her husband, and he was the one that was a breadwinner. He would go out and work hard and come home, and every night, right, she would fix him this dinner. And what she would do was spend her day preparing to make this dinner for her husband. Every night for 25 years, she made sure she went to the butcher, not the supermarket. She went to the butcher and had him cut the best steak, side of beef for him. She marinated it and cooked it for him and had all the fixings to perfection. And she would put that meal in front of him every night for 25 years. And every night she would ask him, "Do you love me?" And he would eat the food and just look up at her and didn't say a word. That went on for 25 years. Every night she would do that for him. And one night she prepared this meal, and she was tired of this motherfucker not acknowledging her and the work she put in to prepare this fucking meal for him. So she did it again. And she went to the butcher and she said, look, motherfucker, I want the best. Give me the best you got. She hooked it up, put it on the table for him. He comes in, wash his hands, go sit down like he usually does. Starts to eat. And she said, listen, we got to talk. Before you take another bite, I've been asking you for 25 years. Do you love me? You know what it takes for me to put this meal? I go to the butcher. I do this. I do that. She ran out all the shit she does to prepare this meal for this motherfucker for every night for 25 years. And she said, all I want to know is, do you love me? He looked up at her and said, I don't even like steak.
What?
And walked out the room.
Shit. The hell?
Now, the moral of that story is
Shit.
we have a tendency to think that people want what we want, that they value what we value, when that's just not true.
Right.
We might want somebody to your kids to go to college, to go into the same thing you doing, or to play ball like you did and go further than you did. You know, you might work your whole entire life, build a beautiful home, a business, and say, I want to leave this to my kid. And your kid is like, Dad, I want to do this shit.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I want to go surfing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say this, you know, when we close out, you know, say some positive words and all that. And I always say, you know, the 2 C's, a chance, and that's God waking you up every morning, and the choice, and that's the free will he gives us to choose in life what we want to do. Whether we do it our way or God's way, we got a choice, right? It's not somebody else's choice to make for you, but we have a tendency to judge people based on their own choice. We think they should do this. We think they should do that. How are you going to take something that God gave as a gift from somebody else because you don't think it's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
You can give advice. You know, you can speak from experience and say, hey, you know, I don't think you should do that, blah, 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 blah. But God gave every one of us a gift, and that's free will to choose. And who are you to deny someone their free will?
Excellent point, man. Everybody, that's Richard Williams. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Norm Davis, Rich Williams, Chuck Richards, Lonzo. We had Ty Butler and Kevin in the room. And we were talking about suicide because, especially from a law enforcement standpoint, but I love the twist that it has taken, because now we're just talking about suicide, period. And maybe it's above all of our pay grade, except maybe Norm's, because Norm is one individual that has tried to commit suicide. And I'm so glad he's failed. But now he's here to talk about why he did it, and I'm sure he's out here helping others in discussions. You know, Chuck, Lons, Norm, any comments, questions you want to discuss? Anybody can go first. I think go ahead, Norm. Please.
Well, my thing is this. For me, finding out that I was an introvert, you keep a lot of things bottled in. You know, you try to solve your own problems. And coming from, I don't blame my mother, but I do blame her because she had that saying, what happens in this house, stay in this house. So you become an introvert. And when I was out and about and I was, you know, going through my things and doing my job, you know, you have to assert yourself. You have to yell, you have to be vocal, but then you go back into your shell. And we need to know that people deal with things differently. It's a lot of introverts who are faking it by pretending to be extroverts. So it's a lot of people, they always say the loudest person in this room is the scariest person, and that's true. It's the man in the corner that's not saying anything, that's just observing everything, is who's the most dangerous. So when you go through law enforcement, it's more of instinct than training.
Mhm.
Um, and when you down, like for me down here, in a predominantly white force, you're the token black, you're the token big guy. So you'd be good to go in front of everybody. It's a bunch of bullshit. They take you through some bullshit. The hazing, um, the ones that tell you go ahead. You had a rough day, 12-hour shifts. Go ahead, go home. I'll take care of the report. Then you get back and the report's all fucked up, and they're like, then your sergeant's like, why didn't you write your report the way it was supposed to be written? And now you got to explain that. Now you're on disciplinary. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of variables that go into this job. For me, also, when I first started, I just got married, and come to find out that she was cheating.
What happened? So, because Norm, is that you tap dancing in the background? What's that noise? Was that no? You said you found out you got married, and what did he say? Did anybody hear the rest of that? Because I wanted to hear that. Oh, okay, yeah,
Everybody needs to mute who's not talking.
yeah, okay. I think that was Norm. So listen, he said something so profound. Loving God said, "I'm so thankful for Richard. He's true blue, real McCoy. That's my man, Rich." Loving God says, "This that God brings all ethnicities together. If don't Rick with, if you don't, I think he says Rick with God, you get approved segregation." I guess he's trying to say. And Joe, what's up, Joe? Nice to see you in the building. She said, I think she was correcting Norm. Joe, she'll do that. She said the loudest person is usually the weakest person. That's what I think Norm meant. We find out there's so many different things happen to people. I mean, Lance, you and I'm not sitting here trying to dissect Norm. Norm was the man. I mean, 6'8", walking through on in college. A lot of things was handed to him. You know what I'm trying to say? And then maybe you go in someplace and they don't care about that big black dude. You just a big black dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember there was a guy I used to work with in the 2-8, and everybody wanted to work with him. He said he said his wife was cheating. Thank you, Stefania. So yeah, I mean that's playing with your ego too. I'll tell a story, and then I'm not going to keep you guys too long. We can just talk about something real quick. One day I was on 116th Street, and a guy, panhandler comes up. He's like, "Yo, can I wipe your car? Can I do this? Can I do that?" And I was like, "Nah, whatever. Like, can I get a little cup of money?" So I said to him, he said, "Listen, you know how your cars get a scratch, somebody open the door, Chuck, or whatever, and, scratch your car, this a little." So he says, "I can take that out." So I said, "Oh, you can take that out?" And he said, "Yeah, I can take that out." So I said, "Let me see." And I said, "If you can take it out, I'll give you, some money." So he starts to take it out, and it really starts to come out. I was like, okay. Excuse me, I have a cold. That's why I'm dabbing my nose. So I said, let me go into my bag of Real Talk before Real Talk was here. I said, "Yo, my man, let me ask you a question. You seem educated. You know this. How did you end up, walking around Harlem with no shirt on, panhandling, doing odd things like this?" He said he had an accent. He was from another country. He said, I'm just going to use Nigeria. I'm just going to say that he's from somewhere, right? He says, I was a doctor in my country. He said, I'm married, I had a beautiful wife. He says, I came home one day and I caught her having a cheating on me with another woman. And he says, it freaked me out. I couldn't believe that my wife was cheating on me. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I guess maybe from an ego standpoint, testosterone standpoint, he couldn't just believe his wife was cheating on him with another woman. And he says he freaked out. And he said he was never able to bounce back from that. So like it goes back to the moral of my story, like, you know, like what Norm's story is, just to say, you never know what straw can break that camel's back. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you may talk to another smart ass and he might be like, oh, I would have just jumped in the bed with him and all that. Knock it off. You know what I'm saying? You know, but you never know what one person feels like and not. You understand what I'm trying to say? Shit. So, loving God said, God brings. I read that. So, you know, fellas, we can get out of here. I'm proud of. I appreciate you all for your transparency. If there's like, you know, of course, I'm always positive affirmation. I mean, Chuck, I want to bring you in. Just if there's anything else that you want to just first, you guys can just comment and piggyback off anything that we just talked about and give your testimony or anything that you feel that you want to say before we close out, because I want everybody to have all your words for all the times that all of you have spoken have been profound. And, you know, I appreciate you all for just being here with me, rocking out. So, Chuck, I'll start with you. If anything you want to say before you can give us some positive affirmation, but just whatever you want to say, brother.
Well, brother, I first and foremost to Norm, man. I mean, just hearing his story, it takes a lot for anyone to openly and to be vulnerable and to actually speak about something of that nature, man. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be able to actually wanting to share such pain and suffering that he was going through that pushed him to the point of wanting to commit suicide. And I have to applaud that brother. I mean, you know, it's for him being able to speak about that openly and sharing it with everyone tonight, because that had to take a lot of courage on behalf of him as not just as as a brother, but just as a man, because generationally speaking, we as black men, right, historically, and I mean, maybe I might be wrong, but you know, when your father told you, you know, as you being a black man, you don't cry. You know, what you crying for? You don't cry. You don't show any weakness. You don't show vulnerability. You keep that of whatever happens and however you're feeling internally. Your main responsibility is to always show as if like you are a very strong and stable individual, even when in fact you're weak, because that's how they were raised and that's how they kind of pass that on to you. But now as we find out, as we get progressively older, we understand that's not the way to teach a child. That's not something you make it very clear to them, that showing vulnerability, speaking about your emotions, telling people that there's a problem, an issue, that takes more courage than anything else. And that also gives us the opportunity, which we don't do as black men, but women do it all the time. They collectively get together, right? And they commiserate and they'll tell, girl, you need to leave him. You know what I'm saying? Or what the hell are you going through? They share shit openly, right? They will, and if God forbid, if you're dirt, your name gets in that group amongst the girlfriends, believe me, they are cutting you to shreds. They have no problem speaking very openly about what they're experiencing, who's doing what to them. We as black men, for some odd reason, as a community, we don't do that. And I think that's what we do need to do. We need to have conversations where we actually share what we're encountering, what we're going through, and what we're experiencing. And like I said, once again, for Norm to do that in this forum, publicly like this, I have to take my hat off to him. I really do. And it took a lot of courage, man, for him to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this dialogue we have here, I mean, even though Kevin may be, you know, the only white cat that comes on here, you know what I'm saying? But the people of color, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I think since Kevin's got some red hair, I'll say he's got some color to him. You know what I mean? So so that being said, you know, we have to do better in terms of just being not just men, but black men in the community, and putting people in a position for black men to feel safe, to give them a place where they can speak and talk about their emotions and feel that wherever they say, and that whole rhetoric about, well, you know, whatever was ever set in this house stays in this house. Yeah, I get that. But for community, I think it's very important that we do share our experiences, because you got other young men right now, right? I think a lot of these young men that are running the street now, they got a lot of strife and a lot of shit that's inside of them that's subjecting them to acting in these violent manners toward one another in society, these shootings with all these young black men. And they got some shit running all inside of them that they're not expressing. And instead, the only way they're able to do so is through violence. And we as black men have to tell them there is a different route. There's a different way of being able to communicate the pain that you're going through. And we need to make it clear to them that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to speak and to talk about what they're going through. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, my hat off to Norman, man. Really, man. That's going to stay with me, man, for the rest of this evening, bro.
Yeah, definitely. It's real talk. I mean, you know, listen, I go ahead, Lons. I don't even want to chime in. Yeah, go ahead. That's real talk.
I'm just gonna piggyback on what Chuck said. I'm just gonna add a little something to that. Everything Chuck said, spot on. He always, my couple of times being on, that brother's always spot on. I just want to add, we as men, it's incumbent upon us to teach our kids how to cope. Teach our kids coping skills, because what I see a lot, going with what Chuck was saying about, young men killing each other and maiming each other. A lot of these young men have full-blood male testosterone, but they have some very other gender emotional tendencies, and that's not a good mix for a young man, right? And then on top of that, they don't know how to cope. Like we can sit here and we can argue, we can have a full-fledged knockout argument, and then at the end we agree to disagree, right? And everybody goes on about their business or continue to be friends. But that comes from learning how to cope. We've all had disappointments, whether it's in our personal life, professional life, academic life, whatever. We're probably all pretty successful, but we can all look back and say, hey, I didn't take advantage of this opportunity, or I missed having, done that, or I did that wrong, right? We can all do that. But the bottom line is we coped with whatever came our way. We successfully worked through it. Whether we came out on top or not, we successfully worked through it. And I think for a lot of our young men and women, and especially a lot of our officers, they may have the badge, the uniform, the gun, but they've never learned how to cope, and it shows when they get out on the street or when they get into a specialized unit where now they don't have as many eyes on them as, when they're wearing a uniform. You got to be able to cope,
So,
got to be able to cope.
very much so. Rich?
Well, I agree with what everybody else said. And like Alonzo said, I want to add on to that, is that what I believe happens is that we find ourselves trying to live up to somebody else's expectations of us. And the weight of that is what drives you to that point of wanting to just, check out. If you're a person that's always expected to be that rock,
Mm-hmm.
Always expected to deal with all of the stuff other people aren't, they say, oh, I can't do that, or I can't deal with that. But you're the person that always the one to step up to do it. The perception of that person seems to always be like, oh, well, they're always even killed. And I don't think that's true. That's the person that's the bomb about to tick and blow, because he's given that perception that everything is all right when it's not. I mean, you go through something that the average person be like, wow, whoa, and they chill with it. How do you caught? I'm trying to find the word for it, but put that in a compartment where you put it over here, it's still over there. And at some point you got to deal with it. It's like having the elephant in the room. I mean, you can keep pushing him around the room, but he's still in the room. and you walking around acting like it's all good when it's really not. You know, like it reminds me like when somebody says to me, there's a racist say, oh, I don't see color. Of course you don't, because you don't want to see it. You know, why can't you see me for who I am and just respect that and appreciate my ethnicity and who I am? You know, we have a tendency to want to put what we think is right and then put that pressure on somebody else that's not doing what we think is right. And it drives them into a form of depression, because that's also a form of bullying. You know, it's a lot of things that go on in this world now that I don't personally agree with, but I'm a live and let live person. You know, you got people right now that ain't making no money. They on minimum wage, right? They might have came from another country or whatever, and they living their best life. They managed to save more money than a person making 6 figures, and they making minimum wage. And they're happy. And people that's making money look at them and say, oh, shit, you know, they ain't shit. They ain't, man, I wouldn't want that life. But they're happy. The pressures of life and the expectations that are put on you in life that define whether you're successful or not is about how much money you got. Whether you drive that nice car and you got that nice house, whether you can go on vacations to jump on a plane and fly over here or buy tickets to the Knicks game courtside and all of that, you balling. Yeah. The pressure of staying in that persona and that illusion of success is what drives people to possibly suicide.
Yeah.
Or depression. Because if you're viewed as that person that's always doing good, always got something, and then we walking around thinking, yo, you balling. And in the back of your head, they say, yo, these motherfuckers don't know I'm getting ready to lose my house. I'm going to lose my car. All of that shit that you see me as being, that I'm living up to be, that the pressure of that is what's making me say, you know what, before I let them see me, what we all call the bum, I'm checking out.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when we walk around and we putting these labels on people and friends of being that guy and yo, we're not really trying to know that person. We just living on the persona of that person that we might even put on them. Mm-hmm. You know, we never stop to say, yo, man, how you doing? You know, how's your kids? You know, how's your wife doing? You know, what's going on? Everything good? You know, I'm going through some shit too. And that's a quick way to get in the door with somebody that's going through some shit. Let them know that you're going through some shit too.
Transparency. Yeah,
but you gotta be real with that shit.
No, absolutely. I mean, I tell anybody, you know, I mean, you're making excellent points, but like I said, when I said transparency, that's how Real Talk started. I mean, it's evolved, but I knew I needed therapy when my mother passed away because I was just like lost. And I was like, yeah, what am I going to do? Like, I took care of her for so many years, being a caretaker, and then now she's just gone. And now I'm sitting there. I don't have any children. I wasn't married. And I'm just like, I'm stuck.
Yo, Bill, you know, like you, my mom just recently passed.
Yes.
And absolutely. I find myself still doing shit that I was programmed to do in my mind. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to go get this from mom. Then I'm like, oh, shit, she ain't here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that whole routine that you put yourself into, where you fall into that, you know, that right there is enough to make a person want to like, yo, what am I here for?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the quality of your life is what drives you to that point. You know, it's like you feel like nobody's gonna miss me if I'm gone.
Right. And let me tell you something. The one that I'll tell this quick story, and then I want to read some comments, and then I'm gonna let Norm say his summation and stuff. You're so right, because I'll just say this real quick. I'll tell you another time the whole story. But my mother had money in Citibank, right? I go to Citibank to tell me they're not going to give me my mother's money. I'm the beneficiary. I got the letter from the courts, everything. Citibank was like, nah. Like I said, now I'm going to fast forward it. I told Citibank, I said, yo, listen, if you don't give me my money, tomorrow we all going to make the news. I'm telling you. I told the general manager, all that. I said, yo, listen, I'm gonna come out here tomorrow. If you don't have my money, we all gonna make the news. Bottom line. So the lady at the time, and the real general manager had went on vacation. He was like, yo, anything you need, I got you. So this was that they was talking about, yo, open up a dummy account so you could put the money in the account. They got me on the phone with their legal team. I said, yo, y'all playing games? I said, I got it. This is what I told her. I said, yo, we're gonna make the news tomorrow if you don't have my money. She said, Mr. Forster, she said, your mother wouldn't want that. You're a detective, da 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 da. I said, don't tell me what my mother wants. She's deceased now. I have nobody here that cares. I said, but I bet you. I said, you keep the money if you want to. I said, watch. You know how you walk away? It's all good. I got it. I'll tell y'all the rest offline. I just want to read some comments, and then we're gonna bring Norm in. Ina said, this is a very good men's support group, Bill. I can get you their contact, and you can possibly call the founder onto your show. I would love that. I would appreciate that. That would be awesome. Samantha said, she says, I have worked with community families. I see that most men are looking for resources to help. Men are single fathers and have very limited resources amongst our Black community. She also says, nowadays, sadly, I have to explain paying forward, giving back, and karma. Yes, Stefania, you remember that story? Yep, exactly. Loving God said, Rich is official. He said that about all of you gentlemen, too. He said something in the form of respect and accolades. Alonzo always gives great insight. And also, Chuck, you were getting a lot of accolades tonight, too. Dana Niece was saying that you did. She agrees with you. And Charles, and Loving God said, Charles, official, real wisdom. I appreciate everybody's insight. Listen, Norm, Chuck had just gave you some accolades. I didn't know if you were listening in the green room, as we say, but he was just saying, Chuck, well, you can say it to Norm right as he's here, and then Norm, you can comment. Basically, we're just talking about, we're just summing this up in our thoughts and things of that magnitude, and going forward, what people can do and can't do for each other. But I'll let Chuck kind of reiterate and sum it up what he felt about your testimony. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, brother, all I can say, man, is that this, even for me personally, man, spiritually, you don't know how enlightened, man, and how honored I feel, man, to be in this space, sharing this time, man, with you there, because it takes real courage for anyone, any man, especially a Black man, to admit the amount of pain and feeling vulnerable about what they've experienced and what led them to make a decision of possibly committing suicide. And thank God, man, the gun misfired. I mean, obviously, the Lord said very clearly, today's not that day. You know what I mean? And for you to sit here and to share that with us, man, that really takes a lot of strength that most men probably they would keep it a secret. They wouldn't even want to talk about it, or they would find some way of, as you were saying, become more of an introvert. And they would push that particular feeling downward, knowing that inside them internally, it's like a cancer and it's spreading, and slowly but surely it eats away at you. And now you make a decision, you know what, I just want to check out. I just can't do this anymore. It's too painful. So I'm just saying, from me to you, brother, with all love, man, and respect, I really appreciate, man, you sharing your story. And it's given me also a way of looking at myself, and maybe also hoping that based on your story, we all as brothers on this line, you know, every now and then when you don't hear from that one brother or that one person, or they say certain things, like it should be an indicator, like a bell should go off, right? Like the lights should go off and say, man, is everything okay? How are you doing? How's your family? How are you? Like, you know, how are you gauging? How are you coping with issues? Like some of them, and when your brother says, yo, man, not for nothing, man, I'm going through a bad divorce, instead of going, oh shit, here we go, man, this motherfucker gonna take me down this freaking, then I gotta listen to this. No, stop. If when he says, I'm going through a bad divorce, take that time out to sit there and listen to that brother, because maybe that might make the difference of whether or not he decides to he may be considering suicide. He might think about taking his life, or maybe just needs to vent, and we need to be more conscious of doing that, giving brothers a safe space for them to be able to talk about their problems and their issues and to feel vulnerable, but to feel safe doing so, man. So my hat, man, goes off to you, brother. Really, man. Peace and blessings to you.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. That means a lot. That means a lot. But like you said, we as men, especially black men, we think we're Superman. We think we can do everything by ourselves. We don't need nobody. We got this. No, we don't. No, we don't. I told my wife this sitting on the porch. It's been nice down here. I'm in North Carolina. It was 72 degrees today, so we sitting on the porch. And I told my wife, I said, look here, how you doing today? She said, I'm okay. Nah, how you doing?
Yeah.
Somebody asks you how you doing, tell them how you feel. Oh man, today's a fucked up day. It's because if I didn't care, I wouldn't ask you. And we need to be more open to that, because I ain't never seen a reason why I can't speak to another black man. Yo, how you doing? You don't gotta mean mug me. We all the same. We laugh, we joke, we have feelings, we love, we hurt, So when a black man see another black man, that's your brother. My heart's been hurt a lot this past couple of weeks, because I can't, that young boy that got killed, he's the same age as my son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's black officers doing it to make it seem like it's okay. And then just now, I'm sorry I left, I got a call. My aunt is in the hospital with blood cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah.
So she's a Black Panther.
Oh.
So she's the one that instilled that black unity, black love. She's the one that keep the family together with that. And now she's fighting, with the blood cancer. She's into the natural herbs and remedies, so she don't want to do the things that the doctors want her to do, but it's taking its toll on her.
Yeah.
So, we go through things. We're going through things in our personal life. We're going through things in our professional life. And for me, when I first came down here to go to school, and I came back, when I came back here, it was because I was in love, got married. That didn't work out. My wife I've been with now for 30 years, whatever. We had one argument in the time we've been together. It's work in progress. We're work in progress, and we need each other. Even if we weren't brothers in blue, we still brothers.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And we need to look at it like that. I'm just glad. I'm grateful. I can't say glad. I'm grateful that Alonzo and Bill stepped up and was like, look, Bill, Bill ain't got no filter. Bill was like, yo, you ever try that shit again, I'm gonna fuck your big ass up. I'm like, yo, hold on, shorty. I'm like, Bill, hold on, shorty, I'm 6'8". I'll fuck you up. I'm like, all right, my man. All I can say was, all right, my man, you got it. You got it. I know a little bit of the martial arts, but I ain't like you. So I ain't trying to take that L. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to take that L. So I said, okay. But
it trying to be intimidating because I ain't trying to climb that mountain and shit.
but it meant something to me that my brother thought that much of me to be like, yo, I'll fuck you up straight up.
Yeah, but I was serious on that point though. Definitely, I was gonna climb that mountain just to figure it out, because you're not gonna do that again to us. There's no way in hell anybody I love, like Rich checked on me. Rich, we talked the other day. He was like, yo, we good? I was like, yo, brother, I love you, man. Like, that's the first thing I said to him, but see, that's the way I'm going to address real dudes. You know what I'm saying? I talk to most of you guys on the phone, and I talk to you. I always end the conversation with, I love you. You know what I'm saying? I've said that to people that I've conversed with or just whatever, and I say, I love you. They'd be like, I love you too. Bye. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an uncomfortable thing.
A lot of people never had that love.
Yeah.
Even I tell you, man, when I was on the force and them white officers 10-13, they wouldn't respond, officer down. They were like, where you at? Oh, we ain't in that area. Who is it? We ain't in that area.
Wow.
It don't matter, it's an officer down. Oh, well, we'll see what we can do. That takes its toll on you mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and then when you got partners that are not living up to their part of the bargain, are they're scared, you know, and it puts the weight back on you, and you covering two people, you know, and I can't, you know, one thing about it, when you getting shot, you lose control of all body function.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary situation that, and you think about it afterwards, you're like, damn, somebody actually tried to take my life. For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
For an ounce of cocaine? Because they had a warrant? They don't value it. And we as black men don't value each other like we should.
Yeah.
You know, Rich sitting up there looking like Richard Roundtree. You know, he can reach more people by the way he looks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he could go out there and be like, he could be in the movies.
Yeah.
You know, and I get these so-called movie stars and athletes, they don't put their money where their mouth is
Oh.
because it didn't happen to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as it's not happening to you, you don't bother you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I thank God that I was stupid by even thinking about suicide, but I got pulled through, and for a reason I don't know, but I think this is it to let other people know that it's okay to reach out for help. When I reached out for mental health, they told me, "Oh, we got to wait a year or two down the line because there's nobody available because of the pandemic."
Wow. Wow.
You know, and so I'm like, okay, so if you need help, what are you supposed to do? I think it should be, I know they got a suicide prevention line, but I think it should be a black suicide prevention line, you know, especially for men. We as men don't talk about our feelings. We hold it in. We
Hey,
try
Norm,
to,
that sounds like something you might be able to start, man.
well, the thing about it is
I mean,
that,
you speaking that, you can speak that into life if you really, serious about something like that, because I agree with you. That's something that's definitely needed. And I don't think it exists right now, at least not to my knowledge.
well, I went around to a few places like the barber shops, and I'm like, look, you know, on Saturday, can we do a rap session where the guys come in and, you know, hey, you know, the barber shop is where we go and we used to converse and whatnot. So, you know, let's go to the barber shop because, you know, when you go to the beauty shop, they ain't doing nothing but gossiping in there. So why can't we go in there and talk about it? Yo, man, you know, I'm having a bad day. My tire blew. I ain't got no spare. The kids acting crazy, throwing stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So but you could talk to a brother because you never know. He may have went through the same thing you were going through. Because when somebody's going through,
have a hotline where you can call 24 hours a day, because it's got to be something that's 24 hours a day. Because people work all different types of hours. People got midnight shifts, so forth, and all of that. But I mean, that's a hell of an idea, man. To have a line where you can get called when you feeling like the way you was feeling, where you could just pick the phone up and say, "Yo, man, this is what's going on."
What's so funny is you said that might be something that might be the calling of this conversation. Maybe we all can come together and do something like that. Get a 1-800 number and then to start passing it around to other brothers and just be like, "Yo, even if it starts with 5 or 6, and just take turns and maybe one day just have a number that somebody can call in and just be like, yo, listen, I'm having a bad day. How bad is it? We're not here trying to give you money and stuff like that, but but it's something we can talk about. I really feel that it's something that we definitely,
we need to
that song, Brothers Gonna Work It Out.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
But we need to break that stigma a black man being Superman.
Yeah.
We need to break
Absolutely.
once we could break that stigma, and we
Absolutely.
can and the stigma also of another black man being my enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I don't know what anybody else has, but I can't be jealous of y'all. I can only be proud of y'all. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
I can't be jealous because you're doing your thing. Because if I put the initiative in, I could be doing the same thing or better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man.
Oh, come on. We love you,
the
bro.
depths of
You
my
know I love
heart.
you. You know Buck love you. Let me read some of these comments, these positive
Hey, yo, man,
comments.
somebody need to put that pigeon back in the coop.
that TikTok. Well, we
Hey,
about to
so
get out of here because we
I'm
definitely
gonna
reached our
have to
2
get
hours.
out of here.
Loving God wanted to say, hold on, Lons. I'm gonna let you say it. Loving God said, we are all role models that this misguided youth don't get to model themselves after. They need us old timers. Eddie Vieira, that was from Loving God. Eddie Vieira said, I co-signed Chuck's statement about Norm's story. Norm is clearly an amazing man as well as Chuck. Continued blessings to you both and all of you men. Absolutely. That's my brother Eddie Vieira in the building, man. I'm just going to see if any more messages. And then Jay Duncan, my man said maybe a sit down or a meet and greet in the center or a station. Yeah, absolutely. Loving God said the churches are better than a barbershop. It is. Some stigmas, people don't go to church. D, what's going on? She said collectively, we as black and brown people, men and women can create. Yeah, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna try to bring this to fruition. Dana said, bring the village back and the mentors amongst our black men. Absolutely. Go ahead, Lons, say something.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna say affirmations. You know, every day above ground is a good day. God gives us the gift of life each and every day. Every day is full of possibilities, right? So seize the day, seize the possibilities, take advantage of every breath that He gives us. You know, and you know, again, love you, Norm. Fellas, don't know you guys very well yet, but from one black man to another, I love you both. Bill, you know how I feel about you. We've been rocking since teenage years. So, yeah. So, hey, man, I love this show. Love the opportunity to come on and be a part of it. And yeah, we're
We'll
going to make
see you next week. Then. That's right. We're going to see you next week. Rich, Chuck, give us some positive affirmation. Norm, you too. And then we're going to close out.
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, you know, mine is the usual, man. You know, every day we are blessed with the 2 C's, a chance and a choice. Make the best choice of your chance.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Chuck?
I always said, brother, that there's 4 things and that's probably the most 4 important phrases that we sometimes overlook and sometimes we take for granted. One first phrase is just saying the same simple words, thank you. Sometimes when people do things for us and we appreciate that, we forget to say thank you. The second thing is to say that you love someone. I love you, right? The third thing is saying, I'm sorry. And the fourth thing is, please forgive me. Those 4 things, they're very simplistic in nature, but they can make a very large impact in anyone's life who's going through something. So if we can remember just to thank someone, to tell someone that we love them, to tell them to forgive us when we've made mistakes, and also to admit that we're sorry for our wrongdoings. I think that we cohesively as a community in our relationships with people we deal with, I think the world might start to appear to be a better place to manifest positivity. So that's my affirmation.
Norm, give us some affirmation, brother.
Fellas, I love you all. Chuck, I appreciate those words. They mean a lot. Lonzo, my man. Be fly. You know I love you. Shaft. Richard. You know hey, bro.
That's it, baby.
Hey, no.
Hey, Norm, I'm gonna definitely say when
damn
you
right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. You all right with me.
Norm, you're gonna put it together. So whenever you come up here, I'm gonna reach out to Buck, and then we all gonna get together and make sure we all get together and sit down and eat and chow down, man, or something. Everybody, what can I say after all my brothers and put it out there? You know, reach out to somebody, let them know you love them. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna chop it up, and we're gonna definitely get something going with these brothers and brothers supporting brothers and stuff like that. And all I'm gonna say is this is Real Talk. Please subscribe to it, share this podcast, let people know what we're doing here, And force of the moment with positive vibes only, yo. We out. See you next week. Peace.
Hey, Chuck.
Yo.
Listen, man. I used to drive a cab, man. I forgive you.
I